Welcome to episode 2 of the Diary of a Wayshower with myself, Lynn Flowers, and thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll stay till the end. And here we go. So today I want to talk about something of my own personal experience of recovering from abuse. And abuse is so prevalent in this world, far more than it should be. And there is so many people that have suffered one level of abuse or not, and they've suffered different types of abuse, like sexual abuse, mental and emotional abuse, even spiritual abuse we call it, and have suffered at the hands of narcissists, and tried to be controlled and dominated, so many different ways. And I can only really talk about my own journey and of recovering from abuse and what that does to you on a soul level, because that's what my work and my gift is being able to look at someone on a soul level and see what has happened to their light body in regards to the damage they've occurred during the abuse. And of course, we have to take into account karmic cycles, where you're in a repeating cycle of abuse from one lifetime to another, and that there's no blame there or shame or guilt about that. And I think that the very nature of abuse and how the perpetrators of abuse place the burden of that abuse and the karma, we call it spiritual equity, the karma of that abuse onto the victim. I don't like to say victim, I survivor, but what in these terms of what I'm talking about right now, I will talk about it maybe using that term a little bit. And the repeating karmic cycles evidently are linked to all sorts. There's so many different reasons. There is not one reason. And it doesn't mean that someone is weak or weak-willed or not courageous or full of fear or a coward or a wuss, whatever you want to call them, that have been continually in cycles of abuse for maybe more than 4, 5, 6, 7 lifetimes, maybe even hundreds of lifetimes. It's all linked to the family ancestral lines they have been born into in other incarnations. It's linked to the contracts that they may have formed in other lifetimes that almost they are tracked down the timelines by repeating people that will come back and abuse them over and over again. And that's very relevant to my story, my journey. And also, we get sort of embroiled in these like nets of karmic patterns and cycles that keep coming back, and unless we break the contract with the person that we are maybe doing a repeating cycle with, or we are having repeating cycles of abuse with different people, unless we break the original contract, the original binding of that karmic pattern and cycle, it will continue until you get to the point where you can stand up for yourself and start to say no and withdraw permission, and to actually call back your power and to disconnect the karmic cords to that cycle. But as I say, it's not as simple as you think. And you've got the lessons that you're learning, and so it repeats because the lesson is, can you stand up for yourself? Can you speak up? Can you see that you may be coming into another repeating karmic cycle of abuse? Are you choosing the wrong partners over and over again? But that's not that easy, because when you're in a contract uh, of abuse, and everything is a contract, folks. Everything is a contract. Then you will sort of keep attracting those people that are abusers. And also, it depends on your family ancestral line, and that's exactly what happened to me. So I was in evidently a pattern of abuse, right? And that had like tied me up over certain lifetimes I've had. Now, I don't know that many lifetimes I've had. If I can count on my hand 5 lifetimes maybe that I know I've had, or 4, that were significant, that were biggies. But there must be other lifetimes in between I've had that I'm not aware of. What's interesting is, last lifetime, not this one, I know who I was. And it became very apparent when I woke up in 2009. And it hit me between the eyes, really, within a few years of like waking up, who that person was. And that has given me, actually, it's quite weird in the fact that I was able to go and buy a book of her biography or autobiography, or and read from someone else her life, and then get flashbacks and get dreams. I saw certain scenes from her life that weren't mentioned in the book. Well, were mentioned in the book, but not in great detail. And what it was doing was like filling the gaps in for me in between. What was really interesting is that lifetime I was subjected to mind control, and that was last lifetime, right? And then I trained to be a hypnotherapist last lifetime, one of the first ever. And I can see what I was trying to do. I was trying to unravel that mind control. I was trying to unravel what had happened to me in last lifetime. And last lifetime, I was abused as a child by an uncle who was my mother's. He wasn't her brother. He was sort of like an honorary uncle, if you know what I mean. He wasn't, and I can see him now using a straw boater, like a Cambridge graduate or Oxford graduate, with a straw boater and a blazer on, and trousers, and he definitely was like abusing me as a young child, probably not young, but probably from about 9 onwards, right into my early teenage years. And he would come and stay at the place we lived, because it was a hotel as such. And he would come and stay and abuse me. And I saw all the scenes, I was shown it. So it's interesting, isn't it? Like, and that uncle, this is the really interesting bit. That guy, who was my mother's sort of honorary brother, but he wasn't a brother. I don't know if he was a god child of her parents or something like that, I don't know. But anyway, that guy who abused me, not this lifetime, the lifetime before, as an honorary uncle as such, I had to call him Uncle blah blah blah. My uncle in this lifetime that abused me, who was one of my main abusers actually, and repeatedly did it, he was the same guy. It was the same soul, same man. So he had abused me last lifetime in like a similar role, and then came into this lifetime in a similar role as an uncle. He wasn't a blood uncle. He married my father's sister, and he was repeatedly following me down the timelines, and looking for me. This has been proof, like I've done so much work on that in the last 18 months. And he actually was seriously pissed off, folks. Excuse my language, but he was seriously pissed off when I broke all the contracts and I rescinded that cycle and I got rid of him for good. And he was linked to a satanic blood contract as well. And I was able to swat him off as such. He was seriously annoyed because part of his blood contract with the sort of a satanic blood contract that he contracted with was that he could have access to me every lifetime. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? This is how it is. And I'm not trying to, I don't want to be talking every episode, it's all dark, and I'm not. I'm just trying to give you, I'm sharing my story, and I'm hoping that that might just resonate with someone, or they suddenly get a light bulb moment about this, oh my God, that happened to me. Because that's what I want. I want to inspire others to heal themselves and to see what might be running that they need to release. So anyway, I got rid of him. 2 fingers up, get lost. You're out of here. You don't get anywhere, you don't get access to me ever again in any timeline, past, present, or future. You don't have access to me. So yeah, so that's a little bit of background. So healing from abuse. This is a big subject, and I can't just cover it in one episode, as you know. But I'm just going to start talking about it. Of course, for me, it was disassociation. So not realising I've been abused. I think that's a self-preservation mechanism to a certain extent, because I've met and worked with people that knew about their abuse from a very early age, or had recall of everything that happened to them during the abuse. And it's almost like they replay it, and it's flashbacks and triggers and terrible dreams, and I am so blessed that I did not have those dreams. I did not have those flashbacks. It was locked firmly away with a key, which only was unlocked in 2022 properly when the fragmentation of my mental body was able to be healed. Of course, I was getting the memories in 2020, as I sort of mentioned, but it's sort of, I don't think I could, to be fully honest with you all, I don't think I would have survived. I don't know if I would have still be alive today if I had known what had happened to me and I was in full recall from being in my 40s or 30s. I don't think I could have coped. I might have even taken an exit route out, to be honest, because I don't think I could have coped with it at that age. Whereas when I was in my 50s and I'd had those years under my belt of working on myself and getting those structures in place of daily practice, as I mentioned, and grounding and all that stuff, I think that stood me in good stead for being able to take the horror of what fully was going on. I still don't know the full horror of it all. I've got a very good recall of certain things now, but I don't dwell on it. It's gone. Release it, let it go. And that's one thing I must say to anybody that has suffered abuse right now, that's listening to this, especially if you've gone through horrific abuse where it's torture or you were made to do things you didn't want to do, and all sorts of horrible things like that. You do not need to keep replaying it by talking about it in great detail to the person who's listening, whether it be a therapist, counselling, whatever they are, right? This This is my opinion. This is my observation. People might have different opinions. That's fine. This is me, my journey, what I have been through, what I have discovered is, in my opinion, you're re-looping the energy. When you keep talking about what happened to you over and over again, right? I feel it just re-loops the energy and you go back into re-traumatizing yourself because your body doesn't know the difference between past, present or future. It's listening to your voice and what you're saying and then embodying that. So like when you watch a horror movie and you suddenly get all sweaty and weird and panicked and like you can feel your adrenaline running, and that's because the body doesn't realize it's not real. So for you to be talking about something over and over again because the therapist wants to hear it, or what did you think at this moment, or like, I just think that is old-fashioned. That's one-dimensional healing. It's flat. It's not multi-dimensional healing, quantum healing. It's all about you acknowledging it happened, having the memories you've got, right, and let them go. You don't have to talk about it again. It's about healing the subconscious, healing that wounded and fragmented part of you during that period of time and bringing you back into wholeness, of course. It doesn't have to be talking therapy. It doesn't have to be that you have to go in great detail. And I will just share something briefly about this. In 2020, when I went through this and I got these memories, I joined a couple of groups. And these groups were groups of people that had been satanically ritually abused, demonic program, MK Ultra, whatever, right? Gathering together and then watching someone else telling them how to deal with SRA from a therapist point of view, because a lot of people that have been SRA'd end up as therapists for others and healers for others. And we can understand why, because you're trying to heal yourself, but also maybe you've come to help and assist others. But what I learned during these groups, right, I'm not saying all groups do this, so it's just my experience here I'm talking about. My perspective is I had to listen for 2 hours to 3 people talking about the memories of being satanically ritually abused in great detail. Yeah? Can you imagine? You're listening to a horror movie and you have already been ritually abused yourself. What's that doing? It's triggering you. It's triggering everybody else in the group. And you are re-looping the energy of that trauma over and over again. And because satanic ritual abuse and is sort of linked to soul contracts and hijacking and interference and lines of interference that go off planet, to be honest, right? They're loving it, because as you're talking about it, all those people in the group are, I'm not saying they're going into fear, but the person talking about it is re-looping that, and it's just making it worse, not better. I went to 2 groups. I actually co-facilitated one of them to help someone else out, and I was just like, oh, no chance am I gonna do this way. If I'm going to help these people, I am going to do it in a much more accelerated way, a much quicker way, and they are not going to have to bloody talk about it. That's the worst thing you want to do. So talking about it does not reintegrate your splintered parts and fragmented parts. Just saying. My opinion, my experience, and I've worked with many people now that have been satanically ritually abused and MK Ultra'd, and it does not help. Yeah, sometimes you have to talk about certain little bits because we're trying to unravel a ritual or we're trying to unravel something that needs clearing. But I tell you what, even that, we've gone beyond that in quantum healing now, where you don't have to unravel the rituals. You don't have to do anything like that. You can actually go and clear the light body out of all the symbols. You can clear the light body out of all of the rituals. You can reverse the rituals in great numbers all at once. So that is the evolution of healing for this planet. And I know there's amazing people doing this work on the planet, not only me. There are plenty of other people doing this work, and well done. Thank you so much for helping my fellow survivors of this, because you wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy. You would not wish this. I would not wish anybody to go through what I have been through on my worst enemy, and I mean it, my worst enemy. I would not wish any entity, being or soul, either on planet or off planet, to go through what I went through. I wouldn't, because it's dehumanizing. It's just the worst atrocity ever, and it has to stop. It has to stop, and it is being stopped. It is being stopped. So I just wanted to say that bit about that. So yeah, my own healing journey of the triggers, very much in the years before this, being triggered by something on the telly, on the TV, music, or something that would just evoke a feel of terror through my body, or a wave of shivering, or I'd have to run to the toilet immediately because I had diarrhea. Excuse the details, but and that, I think, is the chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, CTPSD. That was evidently, I was running that. I think I'm healing that now. That is almost gone. I had that without a shadow of a doubt. The waking up in a cold sweat in the night, being triggered by what someone said to me, not really knowing sometimes where I've been triggered. How did I get triggered then? I don't know. But being triggered, of being, when you've suffered abuse, right, you live in fear and flight all the time. You can't live in the present moment. You have no concept of presence. You've no concept of living and breathing and enjoying this moment today, this moment tonight, a good film, or having a gorgeous sunny day and just sitting on the beach. You're constantly worrying about the next thing. The next threat. When's the next thing coming? I've got to prepare. I've got to be ready. So I'm always planning the future, not the present. And the present, as we know, is the most powerful moment we have. And the more present we are, and the more in the present we live, and don't worry about the future, and don't worry about the past, we are very powerful. Of course, that power's taken away from us. So you lose that ability to be present, because you're constantly like in the energy of the past, of what happened to you, and your body still thinks it's in the past as well, and it's sort of, it's preparing for whatever's the next threat that's going to come along, and your inner child is fragmented. If you were abused as a child, your inner child is fragmented, and your inner child is screaming and wants reassurance and blah blah blah. So there are so many different aspects to it and facets to it, and I will talk of other aspects of this in later episodes, of course. But yeah, it robs you of the present moment. So before you know it, you look round and you think, oh my God, 59 years has gone. And that's how it's been a bit like that for me, because I'm 59, I'm 60 in September. I'm at a really good place now, and I am more present than I've ever been in my life. So I can enjoy, a beautiful day. I can enjoy a beautiful drive. I can wake up in the morning and go, oh, another wonderful day, and um, I can enjoy the sunshine and not worry about what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, or a month. It robs you of your coping skills of everyday life when when you suffer from abuse. You you have no, especially if you've been brought up like that as a child, you are just like in a daze and a haze and in a like abuse trance. That's what I'm going to call it, an abuse trance, where you are just trying to survive every day. Even like the fear of not making enough money, or you haven't got enough money in your bank account, again will put you in that energy. And very much you'll find that anybody who's suffering from trauma, because we've all got this is trauma. Anybody suffering from trauma will not be able to manifest very well, not at the level that they're capable of manifesting, because you are constantly in fear, and you don't know where the fear is coming from, because just everything is a threat to you, and then it gets you like worked up, and your adrenaline starts going, and then you're in your cortisol, and then you just, your adrenals are just knackered from all of that, and you develop adrenal fatigue, or you go into autoimmune diseases, which are not really autoimmune. It's not the body attacking itself. It's the body carrying the trauma of what happened. And of course, I am a firm believer, right? And because I've got different ways of working than others. This is only my opinion again. Is that the way my journey worked, and we're all different, so we all do things different ways, I know, and we all have to heal different ways, and there's many different paths that lead to a destination that is joint. So I'm saying that, okay? But I really felt that my soul light body healing had to come first before then I could heal the body. Because of course the body reflects the soul reflects the body. So, but your soul blueprint, your light body, is damaged by the abuse. So if you break the contracts, you shut the back doors to your abuse. I call it back door shutting. If you shut the back doors to your abuse and you lock the key, and no one else has any keys to that back door, then you can then contain the damage within the house. Imagine yourself as a house, and you've got back doors that are not lockable, or you lock them but someone else has got keys to get in when you're not looking, or in the night time when you're asleep, or blah 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 blah. You're constantly trying to get the house secured and safe and in its entirety, and safety and sovereignty, but someone's got a key to your back door and they can let themselves in whenever they want. So for me, it's all about claim the sovereignty first, get your back door shut, and then take the keys away from everybody that's got access to your soul field and your soul matrix. Then your house can start to become secure. And when it's secure, then you can start to lift out the body damage, the damage within the house. The windows are broken, the floorboards in the living room are fragmented and shattered, or been stamped on. The wallpaper's ripped off the walls. I'm trying to use an analogy here that, like, get the house secure first, then you can repair the house inside. Otherwise, people will keep coming through the back door and keep damaging your house. So what's the point in starting? Yeah? So it's that, for me, was logical, made sense. So that's why I worked on the light body first, to get control of my energy field and soul matrix as such. Then that's secure, I can then mop up. I can then and now the body, my body is now releasing that trauma, and it's been releasing for the last year or so. So now the body's far more relaxed. I sleep really well. I I can tell my energy levels are up. I I had pernicious anemia, which is a blood condition for B12. Uh, I couldn't absorb B12 through my gut. Um, Really interesting that that's linked to the joy of life and not having any joy in life. Also to do with the blood and the hijacking of the blood, um, linked to the abuse. Uh, I've reversed that pernicious anemia. I have. I was, I've been checking that recently, and I don't need to have B12 injections anymore. So that is really an amazing thing, because that B12, that pernicious anemia came in 2018, 2019, just when I was really asking big questions, and I went down the roots of that illness myself, went down the cords, and found my dad standing there with my uncle next to him, and my dad putting his finger to his lips going, "Don't tell, don't tell," the classic abuse symbol, the shush, don't tell. And my uncle stood right next to him laughing his head off at me. That was the most horrible scene I've ever seen. He's not laughing now, I can tell you now. He's not laughing now, because with my divine soul sovereignty and claiming it and sending back all of the divine spiritual, sending back all of the burden, shame, and guilt and spiritual equity, which is karma, that he put onto me, right? I sent that back to him, and he got it all at once. He can't roll it to another lifetime. He can't escape it. It's literally, he's been hit by massive ball of karma that's so huge that he's been stopped in his tracks, and he will not be allowed to incarnate on this earth again with that karma. And I'm not quite sure, actually. I can't even say to you at this stage whether I know whether he has redeemed or not, because if someone's not redeemable, they go back to source. They're not allowed to reincarnate ever again. So I'm not quite sure about that. I haven't checked into that. I've got a feeling he hasn't redeemed, but I don't know. My dad did. My dad did redeem, finally. And he has gone off to the healing planes for schooling and all of that, and it will take a long time because he took all the karma as well. So my dad took all the karma from that Tudor timeline, including the abuse of me and making a contract. So let me just explain that briefly, and I'll wind up in about 10 minutes. My dad was in the Tudor times. He was hanging around with, would you believe, John Dee and Edward Kelly, who are two big black sorcerers, magicians in the court of Elizabeth I. Now, these were big players, and these guys are linked to the trouble we're in right now with BlackRock, with the financial spells and money magic spells that are running on the planet right now. They're linked to the royal family, the elites, there's so much linked to that, right? Now, my dad was an assistant to both of them. And in that Tudor time, would you believe my mother was his daughter? So my mother, his wife, was his daughter in the Tudor times, my mum. And he got really greedy, and he said to them, "If you will give me the secrets to black magic and what you do at your level, what would I need to do?" And the deal was made with the devil, basically, of you must sacrifice your daughter. In this lifetime, that was my mother, to the satanic forces, and you must vow that every daughter that you ever have in perpetuity, that's forever, for eternity, that is born from your loins will be in ownership of the devil and Satan. That's what he vowed, and he made a blood contract. The blood contract was the sacrifice of my mother to form that contract. Can you believe that? So my dad then satanically, ritually murdered my mum as a daughter in the Tudor times, probably in the presence of Edward Kelly and John Dee, probably. And then every daughter that he's had from that lifetime has been subject to a contract. So it's touchable by, dark and evil forces without them even agreeing themselves, right? So that was me. So when I was born into that family, already the contract was there in place because he'd made it and he was my father. So therefore the blood contract was in force. Now, last year, when we were clearing up stuff, and I had done so much work, so much sovereignty work, so much clearing up contracts and going down time. I've done so much. We uncovered that contract, and it was absolutely shocking. But what was interesting was that I had claimed divine soul sovereignty before that, and already my dad had been sliced with some karma towards that, right? But what was interesting was, the karma that he was due to what he'd done to me, right? Or what he'd put me, what was going on. But when I discovered that he had sacrificed my mother, we had to get my mother out of the contract. And then at the same time, I then can get out the contract. So what we did is, my mum stood at the front of the timeline at the first bit. I called her on. She came to the front of the timeline. I came to the end of the timeline, which is me, what we're going to shut down. And then we called my dad on. And he came forwards, and he had to come on because he was called in front of the councils of light, and all of the high councils were there. The karmic board, we call it the courts of heaven as well, they were there. And he came on, and I said, do you realise what you've done and what impact you've had on hundreds and hundreds of other souls that have come through you and that have been sacrificed for your 10 years of fame in the Tudor times, and he didn't really get me. He didn't really get what I was saying. He was still in that zone of I did what I had to do. I wanted the power. I've got the power. All that sort of stuff. And I know this sounds a little bit harsh, folks, but this is what I did. I brought on an image of myself being abused, satanically, ritually abused, by the people that were doing it as a child. And I gave him lots of scenes, and also bringing on my mother and showing him, because in this lifetime he wasn't conscious of what he'd done. Remember, you come into a life, you incarnate, he wasn't awake, that way, but he had no recall of what he'd done to my mother in that Tudor time. So of course he was in love with my mother, and I'll give him that. They always were so, he really looked like he loved her, and evidently because another lifetime she'd been his daughter. So bringing him on and showing him my mother and what he did to her in the Tudor times, and showing him the scenes of how he, and then showing him what happened to me and what he did to me. I tell you, I saw him. He collapsed. He collapsed onto his knees, head in hands. Like, I know that's like an image of him, but like, and he was crying and howling, crying and howling. And I'm going, do you want this to be perpetuated now? Do you want this to go on? Because this will go on if I don't do something, right? And he was just like, he was in bits. He was in bits. So he was ready. He was ready. And I said to him, are you ready to get out of this satanic contract? Because we can break it for you. And his face just like lit up. Like, I can get out of this. Because I think he just thought he'd have to do this forever. And that's what we did. We broke the contract. Mum, I could see my mum working on the other side in light body, because she was trapped in the lower planes due to that energy. She was doing her bit. I was doing my bit. Dad agreed that he would redeem. All of the light beings came forwards. He was given like a geometry of divine soul sovereignty, which actually then gives him the power to break the contract. So then I broke the contract for him as well. So I broke it and rescinded it and cleared it in the courts of heaven. The contract released. Then my mum was released from it. And then all these women just came on that were all the women that were his daughters from other lifetimes. That was quite a moving moment. I must admit, folks, that was a really moving moment when all these women came on and we gave them all their sovereignty and we cleared their contracts with it as well. And then I asked for like dispensation and for them to be taken to the higher healing planes now, because some of these women could be reincarnated now and are locked in cycles and don't know why. It was a wonderful thing to see, and that I was very proud that we managed to get to the bottom of that, and we broke that and released it and sent all those women to the healing planes. Mum went to the higher healing planes after that. She was able to move upwards in the higher healing planes. Dad went to where he should go, because which was what I wanted. In fact, I think on the back of that, I actually skipped timelines. I felt my trajectory go up as I did all that work. So I know I've gone a little bit about that, but that was so powerful. That was so powerful. And, the thing is, sometimes, like anything, you make a mistake in a point of weakness in one lifetime. You make a mistake. We all make mistakes. We've all been darkness. We've all been light, right? No judgment, right? We can't judge this. You make a mistake. You get tied up into a contract or a promise, and then before you know it, you can't get out of it. And then it just goes on and on and on, and you don't know how to get out of it. And that was my dad. And I'm quite proud, really, and it makes me feel a whole lot better to know that he wanted to get out of this and he didn't know how, and he got out. And, we all benefited from it, all three of us at once, my mum, my dad and me, and cleared that bit up, which then helps the Tudor timeline immensely because of the impact he was having on the Tudor timeline and how it was affecting me and my lifetime, because I was in the Tudor timeline at the same time. I don't really have to mention the incarnation I was in then, but it was one that affected affected so many different things, actually, of what I was doing in that lifetime. And it was my responsibility, part of my karma, to clear that too. So there you go. So I hope that has triggered something in you. Maybe look at your family ancestral contracts. Really important, and quite often are invisible and silent. You won't know they're there. You won't know they're there till you're trying to get out of something. But ask, have I got silent contracts running in my ancestral family? Yeah. If you ask, you receive. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. Sometimes you don't want the answer when you actually get it, but yeah, that's my experience anyway. And as I say, the abuse, I feel I'm absolutely on the up, and I'm riding now on the crest of a wave. I feel um I feel totally different than I did 5 years ago. My God. Um, and I probably was on a fast track for healing that. So it really sort of, um, I've learnt so much from these last 5 years. And to be honest, it's like I'm looking at another lifetime. Um, when I look back now at what I discovered and what had happened to me, uh, and the lifetime I had in my 30s and 40s and 20s, it feels like it's another timeline. It is another timeline. Um, it doesn't feel, it feels like I've started afresh. I'm on a new timeline, which I have. Uh, but I'm like, I'm living from the moment now. This is new. This is my new life. It's like I've had a life review. You know, when you die and well, you don't know, but as they say, when you pass over, you have a life review and they show you all of the players, they show you all the roles they played, all of the lessons you were learning, what you did well, what maybe you need a little bit more tweaking on, da da da, whatever. It feels like I've been in a life review this last 12 months and that I had died. The old Lynn had died and the new Lynn was being birthed, and that life review that I had showed me all of the pieces of how people were playing roles, or what what I thought was real wasn't, as other veils of illusion come away from me now, and what was really going on. And it's, yeah, it feels like a whole new life, and I'm so um, grateful to be here, to be honest. And apparently 59 was the trigger point, so they had already planned that at 59 I would die. In my programming. And it's interesting that my mother's sister died at 59, and my mother's sister's daughter, only daughter, died at 59. And those two women, who are my mum's sister and niece, are also linked to satanic ritual abuse and mind control. And they died without me. I couldn't do anything because they died a long time ago. One in the 70s, one in the early 2000s. And I I hope to, in the next few years, or in the next year, work on trying to do something for them if I can, down my mother's line. I've been told at this time I can't. There's nothing I can do right now, but there will be something I can do in a while. And the perpetrator of that abuse was the father and husband, who is an uncle of mine who was one of my abusers too. So it's all linked. Um, so, yeah, wow. It just goes on and on and on. But anyway, I hope that wasn't too heavy for you. I just wanted to talk about how things unravel, how things just clear. As I say, it's sort of, you get to a certain layer and then another layer peels. It's like an onion, isn't it? Peeling the layers of an onion to get to the core, to the real you, the authentic you, the soul you, without anything attached to you, completely pure and clear, and ready for rebirth. And I do. I feel, and people have said that to me. You've rebirthed. You're in your phoenix energy of rising out of the ashes and flying forwards, and the phoenix has been a repeating symbol and sign for me for over a year now. So yeah, it's but for any of you that have suffered abuse, I just want to send you my love and tell you that you're not alone. I get you. I see you. I see you. I see you. Um, I know how devastating it can feel. I know how it can pull you down. I know how much it robs you of your present moment and joy. Try and find glimmers of joy, that term that we call. And I have actually been writing glimmers of joy. I used to do that, is write, oh, I had a glimmer of joy today in this or that. And unless you've been through abuse, you cannot explain to anybody how it really feels. How it really feels, because it's all of the energy of the abuse and the burden and the shame and the guilt goes on to you, and they do that on purpose. That's on purpose. And you can send that back. You can lift that off. And why should we be ashamed? Why should we feel guilty? Why should we carry the karma and the energy baggage of their abuse at us? That energy, why should we carry it? And that's what they do. No chance. No chance. As I say, you're not alone. I know how it feels. But it is healable. Everything is healable. It is. If we just take responsibility on lifting it off, that's our responsibility, what we do with it. It's not our responsibility why it happened. There could be also a myriad of reasons why it happened, right? That's not our fault. But it's our responsibility to lift it off and to find a way to lift it off. And when you ask for assistance, you ask for the right person, you ask for the right healer, the right whoever they are, right? You'll get the right answer. Is there a book I can read about it that will help me? Is there a course I can do that will assist me? Is there a healer that can assist me with this? Yeah, you'll get your answers when you ask the divine to guide you and to help you lift this off and to heal from it. You can heal it and you can lift it off and you can live an amazing life. You can. Don't give them the satisfaction of ruining your life. You don't have to, right? They've ruined their own already. Yeah, with the cycle they're in doing it. But you can pick up the pieces, the breadcrumbs, and you can then run with it. Yeah, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I know you can. So for any of you listening right now that are struggling with this, I've got you. I know what it's like. And you can do this. You can do this. And call for courage and strength and stamina, yeah, and resilience from the divine. And they'll send it to you by the bucket load. They will. They only want the best for you. That's all. The best for you. So I better wrap this up because we're about 54 minutes now. But I hope that this you found this helpful in some way. There's so much more that we have to unravel in regards to talking about abuse, but I just wanted to talk about it this week. As I say, there is no shame or guilt in this, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to feel guilty about. You are not dirty or soiled or damaged goods in any way. You are a divine being of light. You are a divine being of light. And nothing could ever, ever do that to you. Nothing, right? And you are able And you can heal this. You can and you will. And for those of you that have healed this and are listening, well done. Well done, you. I applaud you and say well done for being brave and actually confronting it and dealing with it, because the truth will liberate you and set you free, and the truth of what happened to you, and then you can move on and it sets you free, and then you can live the rest of your life making the most of every day. So with that, I'm sending you my love and thank you for listening, and I will catch up with you again soon. And if you like this, if you could subscribe and share it, if you think someone might need to hear this, I would appreciate it. And I make all of these just with the best intentions and with love, of course. So lots of love and thank you so much, and bye for now.